Corporal James Dalton saw dark shapes moving through thick fog, just 80 yards away from his position. It was 5:43 on December 22nd, 1944, in the Belgian Ardennes forest. Yet his single decision that morning would save 109 lives. 24 men of Dog Company, 106th Infantry Division found themselves isolated and surrounded. The Battle of the Bulge saw German forces break through Allied lines days earlier. The landscape was shrouded in an impenetrable mist that morning, a small island amidst the vast, shifting tide of the German winter offensive. Scattering units and creating pockets of desperate resistance, Dog Company had been cut off on December 21st, losing radio contact and all hope of immediate relief. Their commander, Lieutenant Frank Morrison, knew their situation was grim. He predicted an attack at dawn when heavy fog would offer the enemy maximum cover. His orders were stark: set a defensive perimeter and shoot anything that moved. In zero visibility, there was no way to distinguish friend from foe. Every approaching shadow had to be an enemy. Dalton, a 29-year-old from Texas, listened, the tension in the frigid air almost palpable. But James Dalton carried a unique kind of knowledge into that Belgian forest. His unique knowledge came not from training, but from ranches outside Amarillo, Texas. From age 14, he hunted boars, earning $5 per kill. These feral hogs he eliminated from his father's ranch. These dangerous, aggressive, and unpredictable animals, most hunters seeking them during daylight. Wild boar fed at night, requiring Dalton to hunt them in darkness. This was crucial to protect his family's ranch and earn his pay. He became a master of night identification, relying not on clear sight, but on subtle language of shapes, silhouettes, and movement patterns. A boar had a thick, low, aggressive posture. A deer, tall, thin, and alert. Boars moved with direct purpose. Deer cautiously ready to bolt. In ambient moonlight, Dalton could identify boars from deer. He could do this at 100 yards within 2 seconds. By age 20, he had killed over 400 boars, never once mistaking a deer. This skill, honed over 15 years, was automatic. See a shape, read its posture, interpret its movement, identify, decide. When Pearl Harbor drew America into the war, Dalton enlisted in 1943. His infantry training focused on standard tactics, rifle ranges, and formations. No one asked about night hunting, but the Army's doctrine was simple: shoot the enemy. It was easy enough in daylight, when uniforms were visible. Far harder in darkness or in the dense fog that now blanketed the Ardennes. The official guidance in such conditions was to hesitate, to avoid friendly fire. But Morrison's men were surrounded, desperate, and out of time. At 5:30 a.m., the first sounds reached Dog Company's perimeter. Footsteps, multiple men moving through the undergrowth could be heard. At 5:38, Dalton saw them. Dark silhouettes emerging from the fog 80 yards out. Dozens of them, perhaps 80 to 100 men, were methodically encircling their position. Morrison whispered his command: wait until they were within 50 yards. Then unleash a concentrated barrage. But as Dalton watched, an instinct stirred within him. The movement was wrong. Boars attacked aggressively, directly, yet these shapes advanced with caution. Deer fled when threatened. These figures were not fleeing, but probing carefully, deliberately. At 5:41, one shape moved closer, its silhouette visible for just 3 seconds. Before the fog swallowed it, the helmet was wrong. Not the distinctive Stahlhelm of the Germans. This one appeared rounder, more like a British Brodie helmet. But that was impossible. The British were surely miles away. At 5:42, Morrison began to give the order to prepare to fire. The shapes were 70 yards out, rapidly approaching the 50-yard mark. Dalton whispered urgently, "Hold fire," and Morrison, voice strained, demanded why. Dalton insisted the shapes were moving wrong. Morrison retorted they were Germans. Time was running out, so Dalton pleaded for 30 seconds. "Explain fast," Morrison demanded, as Dalton quickly recounted his 15 years of identifying animals. He explained identifying them by their unique movement patterns. Boars attack one way and deer move another. You can tell them apart by their behavior. These shapes are moving like cautious friendlies, not aggressive enemies. Morrison dismissed it as animal hunting, but Dalton insisted the principle was identical. Read the behavior, identify the threat, he urged. Now the shapes were 60 yards away. Morrison, with the weight of his men's lives on his shoulders, declared, "We're out of time. Fire on my command." In that instant, James Dalton made his choice. He stood up, exposed, and shouted into the heavy fog. His voice cut through the silence. "Friendlies, American infantry. Dog Company, 106th Division, don't shoot." The advancing shapes stopped. A profound silence descended, broken moments later by a voice, unmistakably British, echoing through the fog. "American, what the hell are you doing here?" Morrison's men froze, completely unsure of what was happening. The British voice continued, explaining that they had been tracking what they believed to be a German patrol. For the past hour, they had been seconds from opening fire. Morrison immediately identified himself, surprised by the British presence. Through the shifting fog, a British major from the 6th Airborne Division emerged. He explained his 85 paratroopers had been dropped behind German lines 3 days prior. They had lost contact with their unit, completely isolated. They had spotted Dog Company's position the previous night, assuming it was German, and were preparing a dawn assault, shrouded by the dense fog. The fog had made any visual identification impossible for both sides. They were moments from attacking when Dalton's shout rang out. When asked how they knew to hold fire, Morrison simply pointed to Dalton. Dalton explained his unique skill. "Germans attack like boar, direct and aggressive. You moved like deer, careful and testing with different patterns." The major stared at Dalton for a full 5 seconds, processing this information. "That's the strangest thing I've heard," he said, "but it just saved 109 lives. Had either side fired, a devastating exchange would have annihilated both units." Dalton later explained to Morrison that his certainty wasn't absolute, but the movement patterns simply did not fit the Germans, who in that area typically launched fast, aggressive assaults. These shapes, however, were creeping, testing, circling, precisely what friendlies would do. The Germans, knowing Dog Company was there, would have attacked directly. The British, uncertain of what they had found, probed carefully. That difference in approach, he said, revealed everything. Morrison's official report on the incident noted the failure of visual identification. Radio communication failed in the severe fog, as did standard recognition signals. It credited Corporal Dalton's ability to identify movement patterns, learned from civilian hunting with preventing a significant friendly fire tragedy. The report made its way to division headquarters, and by January 1945, new protocols were being discussed. When Allied forces operated in close proximity with poor visibility, soldiers were encouraged to observe movement patterns, not just visual cues. How a unit moved, how it approached, how it positioned itself. These could reveal its identity even when uniforms were obscured. Dalton's unique observation became an unpublicized training example. Practical knowledge passed quietly among officers. When sight fails, read behavior. The enemy might wear captured uniforms, but they cannot change how they fight. Dalton served through the remainder of the war, never firing his rifle in combat. His combat kills remained at 0, a remarkable fact. Instead, his uncanny ability to discern shapes and patterns in darkness and fog made him invaluable for reconnaissance, helping commanders understand what moved in the forests at night. He helped commanders identify German patrol or American scouts, boar or deer. For the December 22nd incident, he received a Bronze Star, the citation acknowledging his quick thinking and recognition skills. Though it made no mention of wild boar, Dalton returned to his ranch outside Amarillo, picking up his life and his night hunting exactly where he left off. He kept his service rifle but rarely spoke of Belgium. When asked about his time in the war, he would simply say he was infantry, and people would nod and quickly change the subject. It wasn't until 1981 when a military historian researched friendly fire incidents. During the Battle of the Bulge, this uncovered Morrison's after-action report. The Dalton story began to surface many years later. The historian tracked down Dalton, then 66, still ranching and hunting boar. Dalton confirmed the story, humble and understated, insisting any hunter could have done the same. He reiterated that Germans attacked differently from the British. Just as boar moved differently from deer, he explained. He explained that the British had been circling, careful, probing, because they were unsure of what they had found in the fog. Germans, knowing dog company was there, would have charged directly. Careful movement, he explained, suggested uncertainty. Uncertainty suggested friendlies. James Dalton died in 1998 at the age of 83. His obituary mentioned his ranch and his military service, but not the 109 lives saved that foggy morning, nor the wild boar hunting that had shaped his extraordinary skill. Yet a footnote exists in the British 6th Airborne Division's history, detailing a near-miss friendly fire incident in the Belgian forest averted by an unnamed American corporal, whose hunting experience allowed him to recognize friendly behavior patterns. It noted the potential casualties: 85 British paratroopers and 24 Americans, a total of 109. Actual casualties, 0. The profound truth Dalton demonstrated that day endures. When visual identification fails, behavior patterns can reveal identity. Even when appearance cannot be trusted, behavior reveals all.